Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Burn This Podcast, the podcast from Burn This Records. You're hearing from me, Brandie Posey, the hostess with the mostess, the presidente with the whatever. There is a new release currently available for you, piping hot. You can find it at burnthisrecords.com. You can find it on Instagram at Burn This Records. You can find it at his website. You can find it on his social medias. The man is Jordan Cerminara, and his record is Cutting It Up. I really have enjoyed working with him and getting to know him, and I think you're really going to enjoy this too. Enjoy my conversation with Jordan. And pick up the album, why don't you? Come on!
We don't need no water, let the motherfucker burn.
This podcast. I'm looking around behind you. This is my first glimpse into your home. I'm snooping
downstairs
space.
of this
Okay.
beautiful home that I live in. The nicest home I've ever lived in my entire life.
You have good sunlight. You have good light. It's
That
great.
beautiful Oregon gloom coming through the window here.
I mean, I was gonna say, like, you're up in Portland, and like for me to compliment the light anywhere in Oregon is high praise indeed.
That's true. And we are getting into a place now where it's like, oh goodness, there's actually sun out these days.
Yeah.
Hasn't been a normal thing, but I think the climate change is real, baby. It's a real thing.
No one talks about the pros. No one
Yeah.
gets into the pros of what's happening. Whatever. I'm wearing more sunscreen, and like sooner or later, I know how to swim. It's fine. Can you swim?
I can swim. It's
Yeah,
okay.
we're good.
Yeah.
It's fine. I mean, whatever. You grew up in Kansas. Imagine if Kansas wasn't landlocked.
Yeah, it's going to be beachfront property one of these days. So
What do you call someone from Kansas? Are you a Kansanian?
a Kansan.
A Kansan.
Yeah, just
Okay.
stop it. And
Okay. A Kansan.
Yeah.
How do you think a Kansan would react to a beach if they could walk to a beach?
they sure would hate all these hippies that showed up, huh? I don't know. I don't know what they would do. I mean, like the most bodies of water in Kansas are just like muddy lakes. So
Yeah.
it's never like, oh, look at that beautiful body of water. It's like, no, I definitely got to get drunk to get in that thing.
This is my experience with different bodies of water. I grew up being very pro ocean, very pro pool, anti lake. So thought that lakes were disgusting, muddy holes full
You
of
would be correct.
gross dead fish. But as I've moved west in my adult life, I've come to really appreciate the lake because they're not that. They're beautiful, actually.
Well, the clear lakes are nice, but I
Yeah.
definitely come from the land of like muddy lake bottoms. And they're if I can't see to the bottom of it
Mm-mm.
as a kid, oh
Yeah.
yeah, let's jump in. But now that I'm like, I've lived life, and
Yeah.
I like to be able to see what's going on in the water, and even if you like it, if you get into water that you put goggles on and you can't see in front of you, it's like, I don't know what's in here. I'm good.
No,
But yeah, there's beautiful clear lakes. There's beautiful clear lakes. I didn't grow up around those ones.
No, I was like a pretty staunchly anti-lake kid for a long time because I grabbed a dead fish when I was around 12 years old off the bottom of a lake because me and my friends were having a mud fight. And then I just whipped up this like dead bass. And then it's a moment. It's a seared moment in my childhood.
Oh yeah, maybe the first time you held a dead animal on accident.
Yeah, the first of
Yeah.
many. No, not too many, but not the last.
Yeah.
Oh God. Yeah. I don't fuck with the ocean anymore. Where are you on the ocean?
I grew up going to like the ocean in the summer times. My grandparents on my dad's side, they retired from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania to South Carolina, and we would go to some
Good
fairly
ocean.
dirty oceans, but they were oceans. And as a
Yeah.
kid from mostly spending a majority of my time in Kansas, I was like, oh, this is awesome.
Yeah.
And man, we used to go so far out past the undertow.
Yeah.
And now I can't go more than like, I don't know, 15, 20 feet past where the water is ending. It's like I've had a surgery on my meniscus. There's basically like no cartilage between and it just, you can feel how little your bones are connected, free floating in the water, and I'm just like, I'm not in good shape. If I got stuck out there, I'm definitely dying.
Yeah.
Like I'm good on the ocean these days. I like to look at it. It's beautiful.
No, I've like
But
really learned to respect it as I've gotten older. And like yeah, I grew up going in the Atlantic all the time. And it's like I really just brazenly run in it. I'd be in it for hours, just out so
mhm,
far. I can't believe I don't know people that have drowned in it, actually. I'm
totally.
like
It's
really shocked that more people don't drown.
insanely strong water,
Yeah.
like especially
Mhm.
with all the other experience being like in lakes. It's
Yeah.
it's just it's more or less still water, and
Yeah.
that's hard enough to swim in. But when that stuff
Mhm.
is pulling with the moon's gravitational pull and what, like, dude, get out of here. That's not for me.
Yeah. Okay, so this will make sense. I'm gonna tie this all in together. You talk a lot about conspiracy and fun stuff on your album.
Uh-huh.
The moon. Have you seen the movie Moonfall? Uh,
I have not seen
okay.
Moonfall.
You gotta watch Moonfall because there's a lot of conspiracy in Moonfall about how the moon is not actually the moon, but
Yes,
it's
I'm very
okay.
familiar with this. Yeah,
Oh,
it's
you
a
know Hollow
hollow
Moon.
moon.
Yeah,
It's a
Hollow
hollow
Moon.
moon. Yeah.
You know Hollow Moon. Okay, great. Yeah, great. You
I
know
don't
Hollow
know
Moon.
that I don't know that you're going to be able to throw a conspiracy theory at me that I've never heard of. I've definitely explored all of them. It's so fun. It's the most
Yeah,
fun like realm of possibilities. I think it's one of the reasons that I love TikTok so much, and like
yeah.
new material that I've been working on since I recorded this thing. I've been talking a lot about, like, if you have some kind of an idea that you're scared or ashamed of potentially
Mhm.
sharing with family, friends, close loved ones, things like
Yeah.
that. Just go on TikTok and type that crazy opinion into the search bar, and
It's
you will
there.
find like 15 content creators that'll take you further down that rabbit hole than you ever thought existed. No matter what your
Yeah.
opinion is, there's so much stuff on there of people just being like, this is it, this is the truth, here's the receipts, no matter which way you go. And it's infinitely entertaining.
Totally. And like I really love like a silly like there's a break in conspiracy where like, where it started getting like turning into a bummer. But like there's so much fun conspiracy out there that I love to talk about. And I think it's so fun to go down holes on. Like, you talk about like aliens and Bigfoot and like so much great stuff. Hollow Moon, who's that hurting? Come on. It's great.
Yeah,
I'm a
it's a it's a
big
beautiful
fan of
one.
it. Have you ever gone to a meeting in person or done any of like the in-person like alien like MUFON stuff?
I have been to a UFO convention. That was hilarious. It actually happened
Hmm.
in the town that I was in before I started doing or where I started doing comedy, but quickly left after that. In
Hmm.
Lawrence, Kansas. It was at this place called Liberty Hall, where I'm actually considering filming the next hour that I record in
Uh-huh.
2025.
Hell
Uh,
yeah.
a dude that he spent his entire life savings, and it sounded like it was upwards of like 50 to $100,000 to put on a MUFON style UFO convention that was 3 days long at Liberty Hall. This must have been probably 2011 or 12. I can't remember exactly what year it was. Um, but it was called Oz UFO, and he brought in all these. I grew up listening to Coast AM
Of course.
and with like Art Bell and George
Yeah.
Norrie and all that stuff.
Hmm.
And so I knew most of the people by name that were there, and people I had
Yeah.
heard of since I probably started listening to that when I was like 14.
Mhm.
And at this time I think I'm like probably in my mid 20s, and all these people came from everywhere, and this guy spent all this poorly attended. I mean,
Of course. Yeah.
I think Liberty Hall seats like 500 people. There's an upper balcony. It's a beautiful theater.
Yeah.
Um, but he like really didn't sell that many tickets. I was working most of the weekend and I could only go on Sunday. And I will never forget the Sunday that I showed up. I sat in the audience. I'm looking at all these goofballs that are out here, and I know most of the people that are speakers for the day.
Hmm.
And he starts, I'm stoned out of my mind.
Of
Like I'm
course.
very stoned, and I bring along my girlfriend at the time, and we kind of get there like just like a couple minutes late. They're kind of coming together. It's the last day of the fest, and he gets on the stage, very like eccentric man, nice mustache, gray haired, and very a little effeminate, but not
Hmm.
just like that's just kind of how he carried himself. And
Yeah.
he gets on stage and he's like, "Hello, everyone. I want to welcome everybody to the last day of the festival. I'm so excited to be here. And then all of a sudden he just stops talking, and it's like he freezes, and he kind of is like gathering himself, and he puts his head down, and he looks like he's about to start crying. And I'm so high that I'm just like, what's he gonna, what is going? It was like a reset in his mind. And then he composes himself, he gathers himself, and then he goes, okay, I'm sorry, I didn't want to say this, but I did a lot to bring all these people here from all across the country who are experts in their field. And I don't know who you are, Pennsylvania MUFON 75, but Butch is a good man. And like, dude, just like starts going to bat for one of the speakers that was on that day, who was coming to talk about like cattle mutilations and stuff like this. And the MUFON like got to the YouTube comments or whatever.
Oh my God.
Really got to the skin of this dude. And then he's basically crying. And then on a dime's just like, all right, enough of that. And let's introduce our first speaker. That it was, I mean, and it just set pace. There was a lady talking about how she had 200 alien hybrid babies that were across the world, and she keeps in touch with them, and had a book full of drawings of all of the times that she was taken up in the ship. And so, yeah, I went to that. And I've also been to a Bigfoot convention in Ocean Shores, Washington. And that was amazing.
Right after I lost my job, I split up with someone that I spent the most time of my adult life with. It was a 4-year relationship that ended after we moved to Portland together. 6 months later, we split up. And there I was, no job, essentially nowhere to live. My 2004 Honda Civic. She's beautiful. Love her. I arbitrarily made the decision to drive across the entire country after that. I drove across the lower 48 states. I did it in 26,000 miles. And I had a really beautiful trip. And I think it's important to do something like that when you go through a hard thing, to figure out what went wrong, so you don't find yourself repeating the same patterns and end up where you started. You know what I'm saying? And when I was out there and I was driving across this beautiful country, I realized with that particular relationship, the one thing that really hurt me was that I never really felt heard. All right? She would listen to me talk about anything. Aliens, Bigfoot, ghosts, paranormal shit. But anytime I brought up the Illuminati, it was her kryptonite. She wanted nothing to do with it. It was immediate snooze fest for her. Broke my heart, okay? You ever get on YouTube, type in the Illuminati, then like 3 days later, you're like, oh shit. 13 families run the entire world. Our government's been usurped by a reptilian race, and no one can stop the New World Order. We're talking about it, all right? I need to talk to someone about this. Every time I brought it up, lights out. So upsetting. Because there were things about her that I did not like, and I didn't just act like they weren't part of her personality and, and ignore them and act like I don't want to deal with that. I accepted her for who she was, and I loved her accordingly. For instance, every night I slept next to this woman for 4 years, somewhere between the hours of 2 a.m. and 5 a.m. Night terrors. You don't get used to waking up from a dead sleep to a blood-curdling scream. Every time I saw her in that moment of panic and vulnerability, trying to figure out where she was, I gave her exactly what she needed. I pulled her super close, always comfort her, start stroking her hair a little bit. I'd be like, baby, it's okay. It's okay, remember. 13 families run the entire world. Our government's been usurped by a reptilian race, and no one can stop the New World Order. Boyfriend of the year, maybe? Yeah.
I've only ever been to, I went to one MUFON meeting at like a Unitarian church in the Valley out here in LA. And the speaker that night was presenting, was a woman from Olympia who was presenting a talk on chemtrails that got, she she was quoting Hitler within like 4 minutes, and it was bad. I was like, but like in a positive way, and we were like,
Yeah.
we were like, oh, how did
So
that
here's a little
happen?
inspirational quote from the Fuhrer.
Yeah, no, I mean, it happened very quickly. It happened very quickly. And then, I mean, and this room was just like a bunch of Teamsters just sitting there silent watching it. And then at the end, there's always a Q&A section. And I just see this one man's hand just shoot up and he goes, but what does it have to do with aliens? Was the first question out of the game.
I love that, dude. Yeah,
Me
that's what I
too.
want to know. I'm always like, well, what about aliens?
What about aliens? I don't care about this, ma'am. Who cares? Stop. We are not here for this.
That's one of my favorite. It's one of my favorite things about the Bigfoot community. I love getting into the conversations. Like, is Bigfoot an alien, or is Bigfoot interdimensional? It's like, oh, okay, here we go. Now we got a whole new thing. Like, oh yeah, that's why you can never catch him on photo. He's coming in and out of reality, dude. He's higher intelligence than us. He can shapeshift into whatever form of energy he pleases.
Totally, man. I'd love to see the movie Interstellar, but made with Bigfoot. You know what I mean?
Matthew McConaughey as Bigfoot.
As Bigfoot, yeah. Because like, if that's what's going on with him. He's really trapped
easy
in
being
these different
Bigfoot
worlds.
out here in space, man.
All right.
It's real hard being the Bigfoot out in the space shuttle. Like, all right.
Listen, Hollywood. I know somebody's listening. This is honestly, this is a movie.
Watch it happen.
I would look, just credit Jordan and I, please.
Take it.
Yeah, please. I would like to see it.
We don't have the money, so you guys do it.
Yeah, exactly. Can we come to the premiere? I'd like to come to the premiere.
Mm-hmm. In costume.
Yeah, please. We'll be the mascots. Be the mascots of the Bigfoot movie.
You guys like the 90s? Did you have fun then? Any of you not alive in the 90s? You're going to hate these jokes. I believe the 90s was the golden era of toys. The toys were good, but they weren't as good as the commercials would have led you to believe that they were. Case in point, a game called Crossfire. If you don't remember Crossfire, it was a failed game from the 70s that was rebranded and repackaged in the 90s with a wild, out-of-control, over-the-top production commercial. The game itself, Crossfire, just an ovoid board where two people sit across from each other firing semi-automatic steel ball bearing guns at what we now call fidget spinners. The whole point of the game was to hit enough of these steel ball bearings into the fidget spinner to make it go into the other person's goal. Crossfire. However, in the commercial, we are in a Mad Max dystopian future where two punk-ass kids wearing leather jackets with fingerless gloves come sky surfing in on big old fidget spinners. Jump cuts to them playing Crossfire in an arena of 100,000 people during a lightning storm. And then the song kicks in. Crossfire, you get caught up in the crossfire. You get caught up in the crossfire, crossfire, crossfire. Steel ball bearing action. Crossfire. Goal goes in, this kid gets shot off into space. He's gone now. Smash zoom on the other kid just screaming into the camera like a maniac. Yeah, yeah! Crossfire, you get caught up in it. Huh. As a prepubescent adolescent in the 90s, you wanna play. But then you get Crossfire and you invite a good friend to join you, and you both must sit across from each other and endure the underwhelming reality that is Crossfire. You get caught up in the crossfire, crossfire. Oh, look, I scored. Crossfire. And just like in the commercial, you never see your friend again. Thank you. Not the worst toy of the 90s, I will be honest with you. That award has to go to Furby. You don't remember Furby? A dumb egg-shaped bird covered in fur, blinked on a timer, had a little sensor in the middle of its head, so when you walked by it in any room, say some stupid shit like, hungry! And then you put your finger on its tongue and it was sated. It'd be like, yum! Like, ew, you eat fingerprints? Like, get away from me. I hated that thing. I did not want anything to do with Furby. I was too old for that. I was 12, but my sister was 6. And the reason that I have such a core memory with Furby is that it came into my family unit at a very tender time. My stepdad was still just my mom's boyfriend. And the way that he handled the night that Furby died was a sure sign that, like, this dude's got what it takes to lead the pack. 1 a.m. on a random weekday, Furby's last word is, party! It won't stop. My sister is terrified, screaming bloody murder. I am the first to report on the scene. I open the door, flip on the light. She's up against the wall like she's in a horror movie. She's like, Furby, no! And that thing's annoying, and that thing's annoying. I'm having the time of my life. There's absolutely no way that I'm going to be the person to stop this amazing event. But you know who will? It's that no-nonsense farmer that my mom's dating in the other room who's got to be up for work in a couple hours. Dude comes rolling in. No corrective lenses. Blind as a bat. Just a pair of tighty whities. Hung. You're like, did you see mom's boyfriend? That's nuts. Immediately takes control, swoops Furby up off my sister's dresser, goes to the middle of the room and starts smashing it until there's silence. And without skipping a beat, he looks over this pile of blinking, fuzzy electronics and he says, party's over. What a man, what a man, what a man, what a mighty good man. I was like, Mom, marry that guy. I've been chasing masculinity like that ever since.
The Crossfire bit was the first thing that I really wrote after kind of landing here for sure and getting my footing. And people were calling me the Crossfire guy. And I just don't like my comedy being summed up by like a bit, you know, or whatever. And it's I can sing. Like I'm not like an amazing vocalist, but I have a very specific range of like I like imitation. You know, I do impersonations of all types of.
You probably rip
rock.
At karaoke too. I bet.
Like
you probably
that's what I did before stand-up. Before stand-up, I was going to karaoke like 4 nights a week in Lawrence, Kansas.
What's your songs? What do you do?
Pretty much like husky feminine vocalists like Alanis Morissette, Melissa Etheridge, Tracy Chapman. You know, like I can get in that range real good. Tears for Fears, Head Over Heels. Take a couple shots of whiskey real quick and give me anything in Tom Petty's like wheelhouse. You know,
I can see it.
Just Creed. You know, dumb shitty rock. Like I love it, and I would never actually sing a song where I genuinely in my mind go, oh, this vocalist is like incredible, because I wouldn't want to embarrass myself of actually trying to like sing from a place of being genuine, you know, this is a beautiful, it's like, nah, this song's got to be a little silly and like have elements of bad popishness to it or whatever to just even make it, it's a joke. And then it's kind of, once I found out, oh, you can get on like stage and not do somebody else's material. Oh, okay, I want to try this, you know.
Totally. Yeah. I think
And
I think there is a strong karaoke to stand-up comedy pipeline.
absolutely.
I'm a former KJ. I was already doing stand-up at the time, but I was a karaoke host for 3 years at a bowling alley that I ran a stand-up show at too. And I credit being a KJ with like, it made me a much better stand-up, because like having to run a night and control all that energy
Absolute chaos.
without jokes to really like, I threw out jokes, but like jokes aren't how you're controlling that. You're controlling that with that weird unspoken thing that you just learn to do on stage, that like it's that weird like comedy Jedi shit that you can't really explain to people unless you've done it long enough to be like, I don't know how to tell you that, like, I just know how to be on stage and people will shut the fuck up. Like they just
crowd
will.
control mind trick for sure.
Exactly. And like that, and the number of people that I'm like, you'd be a good comic, because I see the way, because you're not you walk on stage and it's about you, and you're not like, I need them to like me. You're just like, no, I'm gonna have fun and I'm gonna rip it. I'm just gonna rip it.
I'm very comfortable having all of you listen to me at once.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I used to bartend a karaoke night in Lawrence, and it was on Wednesday nights, and I would go up somewhere, you know, twice a night and do a song. And man, did I make so much money, because people would be like, "Oh my God, the bartender, you were just up there ripping. Here's extra money." You know, it was just so fun to just be like, "Oh, this is the life," you know, like making
totally.
And it was like a bar where it's a college town. People aren't like, oh, make me some crazy cocktail. They're like vodka soda, whiskey, straight, beer. It was the easiest bartending gig ever. And people are just throwing you hand over fist because you're likable in this scenario of like, oh, you sing karaoke too?
Yeah. Well, you're doing crowd work too. Like as a bartender, you're just like, you're chatting with people, you're getting like a line in here or there or whatever. I mean, it is like so much of that is like a preparation. There's a lot of interesting careers that I think like, if people wanted to, they could pivot to stand up. It's like you see a lot of like substitute teachers, like lawyers, like there's certain people that I'm like,
people who have to hold the floor. Totally.
Yeah.
I mean, I waited tables and bartended for 15 years before I like found out that like, oh, this is something I could do. It just like being from the Midwest, where like getting on stage and stuff like that as a kid is like not cool. You know, it's you play sports or you get beat up, you know?
Yeah, totally. Yeah. So, you talk about on the album, like your last gig as a waiter was in San Francisco. Thank you, pandemic. Appreciate it.
Man. Yeah, no, totally. I haven't had to do that since it happened, and I'm so grateful for it, because I just couldn't stand it anymore. People are their worst selves hanging out in the restaurants.
Oh yeah,
nice
I mean,
to your server.
100% tip, motherfuckers. I know so many of my favorite creative friends that aren't fucking famous or like, you know, independently wealthy or whatever. Like there is like a moment that they really enjoyed about the pandemic, because it was this like, oh, I got money that I got to just like stop trying to scramble and survive, and I got to just sit for a minute and figure out how I wanted to be creative. Wow. Imagine, look how productive I could be if I just got to like sleep and just do interesting stuff, you know?
Yeah, it's so much of why you see the idea of like the rich kids that start the famous band. It's because they have time and access to everything that they could possibly need, and the space to be able to be with a creative thought, rather than, hey, you need to pay your cell phone bill or whatever, you know, like rent's due, here it is. And it's just a cycle. It's every 30 days you're back in the like, can I do this, you know? And if you don't have anybody there that's like supporting you constantly, when would you have the time? And so the first time that the government was ever like, hey, you want $1,600 every 2 weeks for God knows how long? Yeah, I'll take that. Like,
yes.
I at no point, I'm not raised by, my mom raised me by herself, and she was definitely like you know, I work and I'm gonna earn my keep, and she instilled it in me. And at no point before the pandemic did I ever think of like, oh, I don't need to like do that. I don't
Mhm.
need to like ask the system or big government for subsidization.
Mhm.
And it's like, I'll just do it. I'll just figure it out.
Mhm.
And in that moment, I felt weird. I like right
Yeah.
when that happened, my boss was like, I was like, when are we gonna come back? And he was like, honestly, I suggest that you go like apply for unemployment right now.
Yeah.
And I was really like, I had like a weird visceral reaction to it. Like, why? This is,
Mhm.
I'm not gonna do that. And he's like, I'm serious. And I was
Yeah.
like, this is weird. And I did it. And it was
Yeah.
the best decision that I ever made because, we're never getting any of those
Mhm.
social security taxes, all that stuff that's just been continually taken out of our pay for,
Yeah.
I've been working since I was 15 years old,
Yeah.
like I'm never going
Mhm.
to see any of that money. So might as well get whatever they're going to give us now while the ship's sinking. And honestly, it freed me. It gave me the space and time that I needed to go, oh, amongst some other life events that happen. But
Mhm.
it really gave me the space to be like, oh yeah, you can actually probably just make this work if you actually apply yourself to what you're doing rather than having it be kind of this tertiary thing in your life where it's like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, someday I'm going to make it because of this like
Mhm.
thing I care about but don't have as much time as I wish I did because I'm busy doing ABC.
Yeah.
Like now that it's the priority in the forefront of my life, I feel like I'm making just as much money as I would have waiting tables 4 days a week, which is all I could stand anymore.
Yeah.
Like, so it's not a great, like, I'm not living lavishly, but I'm doing it on my own terms and it feels much better than anything I've ever done before. So
No,
I'm
that
super,
absolutely.
super happy with the pandemic for what it was.
I mean, truly, that is so many artists I know, like that is 100% their story. But they're like, and I don't know anybody that just was like, well, I'm gonna fuck off. They were like, oh, I have room to do the creative things I've been putting off. I can actually like look at where I really want my energy to be in my creative career, and like I can actually plan and like figure out, what's next and all this stuff. And it's like,
Hmm.
a lot of people are doing very like was able to really like stop for a minute, figure out what I wanted the label to be because of the pandemic and everything. Like, and like have a moment to do a lot of research before this all got started and everything. And like,
Hmm.
there's a lot. You look at other countries and they give like artist stipends to because we are elevating the culture and like making things better. And like, it sounds silly, but it is like what we do. Like,
Yeah,
imagine if your phone wasn't full of reels. What
totally.
would you look at?
I highlights of who did the best at their job this week, like I don't I
Yeah,
I don't know
exactly.
what people really want from like the idea of past concepts of like an all-American, of someone
Yeah,
who was like, oh yeah, I went and slaved away at a corporation for my entire life
yeah.
and it didn't give a shit about me, like
No,
no people are I think like we missed the boat for that like
yeah,
idea of like, oh, if you serve the machine will serve you well. And it's like, I don't really see that working for anybody I've ever known in this realm of space and time, like
no,
it's thankless, man. And
yeah,
so I feel like if you're not doing things for yourself that bring you some kind of joy, then you're not ever going to be able to find it in the future,
yeah,
because you'll spend so much time with your head down doing shit that you're just doing to subsist
yeah,
that you're going to miss it and you're not going to know what you like. And what are you going to sit in quote unquote retirement and figure yourself out then? Like that seems like a hard place to put it, which not saying that there isn't a time for anyone anytime. You can
yeah,
start now any day, but I
of
just think
course.
it makes it a lot harder when you start to
Yeah,
factor. I'm not even 40 yet and I'm starting to feel pretty fucking old,
yeah. No, well, yeah, and it's like well, none of us are ever guaranteed another day. So it's like, imagine, none of us are guaranteed anything. So why not try to do your best as long as you're not stepping on others at this point? It's like, man,
Absolutely.
there's a reason that like as soon as everyone's basics are taken care of, that they turn to things like art and music and trying to make people laugh and tell stories, because that is like, we are a community focused people that just animal that just wants to connect and like do things for each other, like ultimately, and that's
Yep.
what we do. Like if everyone just like had a had our stuff paid for, like I wouldn't give a shit if I was making money. I would just be like, yeah, whatever, cool, that's fine.
I'm
I
just
would
gonna
do
keep
this,
doing
doing
this.
it. Yeah,
Yeah.
I would just be doing it. That's fully it, and that's beautiful, I think.
I think
And
so too.
yeah, and I mean, like, I know that that's like how you feel, because it's like you also do this like amazing show that you travel around the country with called Art Critique, where
Hmm.
you critique people's Goodwill paintings and stuff.
That's right. Thrift
Um,
store art, baby.
which
The
they're not.
most beautiful thing in the country. That's one of
Oh
the most
yeah,
beautiful things to find.
I'm looking around. I have a ton of thrift store art in my place. I love finding a good piece at a thrift store.
You see when somebody did what exactly we're talking about. They had
Mhm,
the time and space to give themselves like the freedom to be like, I'm gonna make this thing that no one asked me to.
mhm.
And a lot of times it's really bad, but it's
Yeah,
good for you. And then it's good for
mhm.
you to recognize that it needs to go in a thrift store now. Like
Yeah,
it's fine. It's not gonna be up in a gallery anywhere, but it'll
whatever.
be it'll be appreciated by someone who gets the intention behind it. Like, oh,
Exactly.
I was just expressing myself. And I think that that's what makes the art, we don't really like bag on it as much as we
No, yeah,
celebrate it.
I think
It's
so.
like
Yeah,
like we started out bagging on it and it was like, nah, this isn't as funny as like
yeah,
still as genuinely like celebrating, like, look at this thing.
yeah.
And you can always like, I think there's a difference between like bad art and good bad art kind of
Yeah,
thing, where it's
totally.
like, oh, there's some like basic technical skill here, and
Hmm.
there's also like something intrinsically bad about it, and it's
Yeah.
fun to
Yeah, there's like
analyze and check it out.
amateur folk art where there's like, I get what you were trying to do, and it's a good idea, and that's cool, that you thought of this or whatever. And like
Mhm.
that's awesome. I think that's great. I just love Goodwill art. Have you ever donated anything to Goodwill? Like any of your art?
The only time that I had a stockpile of art, which was when I was leaving Lawrence, Kansas to like start heading west on this journey to figure out where the hell I was going to land for stand-up comedy.
Mhm.
I had canvases because I took a college, my last semester of college, I took the only art class I took in college, and it was probably my favorite class that I took in
Mm.
4.5 years of college. And it was just a painting class, and I had some paintings, and one of them was pretty cool. I liked it a lot.
Nice.
But they were oil paintings, and I tried a couple handful of times to like pick painting back up. I just didn't, when you do oil paints, there's so much fumes and stuff, and if you don't have
Yeah.
ventilation and whatnot, I was like doing it in my bedroom, like
Yeah. And then you gotta
uh
let oil's gotta like dry for a
for
month.
so long. It takes
It's
so
yeah,
long.
yeah.
And
I have a
so
friend, I have a friend who I house sit for, and she like
uh-huh.
doesn't use her, she's her a garage that has like a back room. And I have like oil painted in her backyard before, and low-key just like left something to dry in her garage back room and just not told her. And just got and just gotten it the next time I've gone back. Been like, whatever. She finds it, she'll text me.
Totally. But yeah, the last time I had that like I had like a little stockpile of just like
Mm.
art I made. I burned that shit. I don't want anybody.
Ooh,
I don't want
very
any.
art school of you.
I don't
Very
want
art school.
anybody coming up on that shit. Like, and there was one painting that I like. This is a really cool. I just didn't have room for it.
Yeah, yeah, of
When I
course.
made the choice to like pursue comedy, I had a record collection that was massive. I mean, I had
Hmm.
thousands of LPs
Oh,
and
wow.
45s, and once I found out that I did stand up, and within like I did a open mic like super randomly at a bar I'd been to like
Mhm.
thousands of times before over the 8 years I lived in Lawrence. And never had there ever been comedy there. It was a place that I would do karaoke or whatever, but
Yeah.
the last Sunday of the month or something like that was open mic, and it was the only open mic in Lawrence, Kansas that I never knew about. And after I did that mic, probably like I did it the next month, and then I started going to Kansas City twice a week to get 3 minutes at 2 different venues. And I think within like 6 weeks of having done it the first time, I was like, oh, this is what I want to do. And I sold all of my shit. And if it didn't fit in the car, it couldn't come with me. And I was also like, I don't want a bunch of visible stuff in my car. So it really got down to a 2004 Honda Civic trunk load. And
damn, and that I know that trunk.
It's a pretty decent sized trunk, but it was and I even tried to hold on to my last like choice 300 records that I was like, God, I love. They were all like original pressings or white label promos, or just like they had really decent value to them. And they were all, and it was all good music too. And once I landed in San Francisco and didn't have any money anymore, I think Amoeba got most of that, because I was like, I don't even have a record player anymore. I was thinking that the transition was going to be so dope that it's like, once I post up in my beautiful California digs, I'm going to get a record player and we're just going to rebuild this thing. No, I was sleeping on a mattress on the floor in some terrible $650 a month Craigslist dingy place in the outer Sunset for like 2 years. I moved into that place with literally nothing. I slept on carpet for like 2 weeks until I had enough money to like buy a mattress. It was crazy.
Oh yeah. I mean, at least you didn't have like a CRX trunk. I think that would have been
impossible.
Yeah, you really would have had nothing when you moved out there. But that attitude might have I don't know. I feel like the attitude of a CRX owner is like, that's a different.
All I need fits in the hatch.
Exactly. It's like the Honda bad boys of the late 90s, early aughts.
Absolutely.
I'll still see one every once in a while
that rides a CRX.
Me and Rick talk about that sometimes. I'll see one. There's a few in LA that are like pristine, and we'll see you and just be like, somebody's like about to get fingered whenever you see like a CRX
by the driver who's simultaneously hitting a bowl. Like,
I know.
Oh, dude.
You're cool. What's that?
Cool.
Who's this cool guy?
Kind of a dork across the board. In my spare time, I make analog collage art. If you don't know what that is, that means I take old magazines like Life and National Geographic and I cut out disparate images and rearrange them into funny little pictures that make me laugh. Because I cannot afford therapy. Pretty wild. The only thing that's got me holding on is a pair of scissors. I'm fine. With that said, anytime I need some space to myself, don't want to be bothered, I know no one will disturb me in the men's bathroom at Joann Fabrics and Crafts. I've never actually seen another human being in the men's bathroom at Joann Fabrics and Crafts. I have a hard time at this point accessing my masculinity. Mostly because I live in Portland. It's illegal there now. I do think we need to give the elder millennials a little bit of a break in the toxic masculinity conversation. Because the types of things that were being shown to me about what it meant to be a man as a young boy, very confusing, all right? All of my fellow boy buddies when I was a kid, they made it uncomfortably clear to me that it was no longer acceptable to have a stuffed animal. While simultaneously, it was actually considered cool to own a pillow that was shaped like a WWF wrestler. I confront my friend about it. I'd be like, that's just a stuffed animal, right? He's like, no, it's a half-naked dude that I spoon while I sleep. And that kid was wild, man. He was so aggressive. He would get real hateful with his mom before bedtime when I'd stay over at his house, Start yelling at her like, listen up, mother. Tonight, I'm going to bed with the macho man. And
you ain't got to worry about nothing, mother, because this ain't no sissy stuffed animal. You can tell by his nipples. Oh, yeah. From the top bunk.
Kid was a savage.
You know, we talked about the money idea of like, if the money factor wasn't there, then yeah, we'd still just be doing this. But to be honest, with the money factor being there, it is one of those things that has made me more like enterprising, if you will, where it's like I sell my collage art at all of my shows, like just fucking shamelessly. After a 10-minute bar set, I'm trying to move at least 5 prints. That's my goal every show. And I make so much more money selling this art than I do getting paid to do stand-up from gig to gig. Like I did about 200 gigs last year, and the amount of those that paid like what I would say is like good pay versus you know, a bar gig, 20 to 50 bucks maybe if you're lucky. Maybe 20 of those gigs paid really well, where I was like, oh cool, this doesn't like this feels like I'm doing it. So 20 out of 200, you know, it's like 10% of the gigs that I'm pulling is what feels like, oh, if I was making this every gig and doing 200 gigs a year, thick, I'd be living pretty solid. But I have to make up the stuff that I'm not making to meet that baseline of like, okay, I'm making as much money as if I was waiting tables and getting about 20 to 30K a year, you know? And I like that. I like that the goal, I like that it was like a goalpost that was set by the fact that you need money to live, you know? So how are you going to do it without having to resort to old habits and tricks of making money vis-a-vis waiting tables? Like I can't.
No, it makes you resourceful. And I think also you will know that you've truly made it when you find one of your collages at a Goodwill.
Oh God, it's coming. It's not. It's gonna be there. I can't wait to see a print of mine in a 8.5 by 11 frame that somebody was like, "The fuck did I buy this for?"
I mean, the dream, the day that it happens. I can't wait for you. Frankly,
it's gonna be great. If I stick around Portland too much longer, I mean, I've pushed at least 500 prints out into Portland over the last 3 years, and they're going to end up being, well, I'm like, oh, I wonder what art I'll find today for art critique. Oh, cool. That's mine.
Cool. There's definitely going to be like, that was a gift to somebody's significant other, a breakup happened and they said, fuck this, straight to a Goodwill.
One of my like lines that I'll do when I've got somebody who's like on the edge of buying something at my little merch setup, I'll just be like, these make great white elephant gifts, or give it to someone you don't like, or I call it bathroom art, you know, just like I have fail safes for like somebody wants to give me $20 and I can tell that they like me, but nothing that I have to offer, my 10 SKUs are not resonating with like whatever they keep in their house. And I'm like, let me give you some excuses to buy this, you know?
Yeah. I love that. That's amazing.
It's fun. So I know that's that kind of habit in the sales portion of things. That's what'll end up being in the Goodwill for sure. Is like the person who is forced into giving me $20, which a lot of people, I love a person that's honest, you know, like none of that works for me. Here's $20, just take it.
Thank you. Cool. And honestly,
Appreciate
thank you. We love those people. We love those
you
people
so much.
And you can spend $20 on Jordan's album right now.
You can.
Right now. It's available if you go to your website will have the links. Burnthisrecords.com will have the links. Burn This Records on Instagram will have the links. You can find it. It's called Cuttin. It's everywhere. Where can people find you? This is your plug zone.
I am recently in the middle of a rebrand, and I am trying to really lean in to comedy meets collage, and I'm making a lot of comedy and collage content on all social media channels at Hand Cut Comedy. And my website, since the day I got the domain and for the rest of my life, will be thejokeisonme.com. And I am desperately trying to sprint towards getting that all in shape to where I want it to be for when people can buy this album so that I'm like, all right, we've moved on with this part. The first album's out. I've got a social media presence and a website presence that I like. I hope that that's what you see, because if you are not seeing something that looks coherent and organized, I did not do what I needed to do for the next week and a half after Brandie and I recorded this podcast.
Go let Jordan know. Did he do it or not? I believe you did it. I know you did. You're so on top of this stuff. You've been a joy to work with. Honestly, I just want you to, I'm saying that into a microphone and I'm not going to cut it out. I just want you to know that.
Thank you so much. You've been
Yeah.
a joy to work with too. It's been really helpful to move on in this beautiful space in my budding career as an up and comer, if you will.
Absolutely. The up and coming clubs and colleges.
All over the country.
Clubs and colleges. The album is Cutting It Up. Jordan, Cerminara, everybody. We'll talk to you next time. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.